Hello everyone. In this last video for the second week of this course on Let Us Fight AMR, we will be discussing about a very small yet significant topic, which is about what the difference is between these two terminologies, drugs and antibiotics. Most of the times when we speak about medications, we tend to use the terminology drugs. But it's also very important to understand that we cannot use the terminologies drugs and antibiotics interchangeably. All antibiotics may be classified as drugs, but all drugs are not antibiotics. Let me repeat this again. I said that all antibiotics may be classified as drugs, but not all drugs are antibiotics. To understand this, let us revisit the definition of antibiotics. We said that antibiotics are those chemical agents which act against bacteria. But when you talk about drugs in general, we need to understand that chemical agents which have therapeutic effect are referred to as drugs. They may not be necessarily the ones which act only against bacteria or fungi or viruses. Many drugs are to correct any physiological malfunctioning that your system may have, like you consuming a medication to control your blood pressure is surely a drug, but not an antibiotic. Similarly, you consuming paracetamol to control fever is surely a drug, but not an antibiotic. Or you consuming painkillers, which is prescribed by the physician for relieving pain, will be a drug, but not an antibiotic. So we need to understand that all drugs are not antibiotics. Only the medications which act against bacteria and is given to you to fight against bacterial infection, we refer to them as antibiotics. This primary distinction between drugs and antibiotics normally is not considered, and we end up interchanging the terms and using them. And that gives rise to several misconceptions. So I thought that this is one part on which probably discussion is essential. So with this, we have come to the last part of this week. This week was very interesting in terms of understanding the arena of antimicrobial agents, where we first started discussing about antimicrobial agents. What does it exactly mean? What are the different methods by which we control microorganisms? We learned about several terms which are used in control of microorganisms. We focused on chemotherapy and chemotherapeutic agents, the types of chemotherapeutic agents, and we also tried and understood that what antibiotics, antivirals, antifungal agents basically are. And finally, today we have discussed about the difference between drugs and antibiotics. With this, we have come to the end of the second week, and the next week is going to be very interesting because we are now going to talk about the crux of this course, which is antimicrobial resistance. So what is antimicrobial resistance? How does it develop? What are the reasons because of which antimicrobial resistance occurs? Which humanitarian, or human activities, anthropogenic activities are responsible for, giving rise to antimicrobial resistance? What is the prevalence of this in India, especially? Of course, we will see the global scenario, but what is the Indian scenario currently of AMR? And what are we doing about it, especially in terms of research, is something that we will be focusing on in the next 2 weeks. And this is where it's going to be interesting. At the same time, we should also think about what we can do as individuals, as citizens of this country, to curb this scenario and try and make it a safer environment to live in. Requesting you all to go through the assessment activity, the reflection activity for this week, and of course the feedback for this week. Your feedback, your suggestions are all welcome, because that helps us to, in a way, work on the delivery of the content and make it more understandable, legible to a wider audience. Thank you so much. Stay tuned.